Batman. Good luck, Harry Potter.
Well, cover me with eggs and flour and bake me for 40 minutes.
Hello, and welcome to ScreenMasters with me, Bav.
And me, Fluff.
And today on the show, we are going to be talking about Severance and Pluribus, both series of Severance and the first series of Pluribus. I'm going to say at this point, everyone, spoilers abound. If you have not watched them and you do not want to be spoiled, then maybe skip this one. Listen to the intro. There'll be no spoilers in the intro. So when we move to the main topic, maybe just put this one on the back burner and come back to it when you watched it. But before we get into anything, I would like to turn to the words of Alan Bergman and say, like a carousel that's turning rings around the moon, like a clock whose hands are sweeping past the minutes on its face, and the world is like an apple whirling silently in space, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind. You going to leave me hanging on that one this week?
No, I was going to say very poetic. Suddenly, where the hell did you pull that from?
Honestly, I heard it the other day, and I actually thought it does kind of make sense for Severance.
Sure.
You know, it's all about ideas in your head, the windmills of your mind. So, yeah, that's why we chose that one this week. But yeah, thanks for leaving me hanging last time on the old Cool Runnings one. Peek behind the curtain, viewers. I was going to edit around it, and then I was like, no, I'm just going to take the piss out of him next week for it.
Yeah. We discussed this when we had a beer the other week, and I was aware. I figured you'd mention that. You'll want to hold a grudge from time to time. It's fine.
No, what do you mean? No, I'm too old for that shit these days. I don't like it anymore. So yeah. Anyway, how have you been?
Not too bad. Not too bad. So yeah, there's a few things. I've made a list again. You've got me to a point now where this is an organised fluff, and this is not me. So yeah, no, I figured, you know what, there's been a good few things that I've been watching of late. We'll definitely get to one. That's the one at the end, because I'm sure that's the film that I said last month that everybody should go and watch. So we'll get to that one last. Cool. But in terms of series, firstly, new series of One Piece really surprised me in a very good way.
I assume you mean the live action Netflix.
The live action series, I should
go for it. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah. The first series didn't wow me. It impressed me by the sheer scale of what the production was. And
I tell you what, just stop for a sec. Just so you know, I have only seen the first episode of the second serise, so
that's absolutely fine. I won't go. No. I shan't. No. It's more for me. I just looked at it and I felt more at home in this world. It very much felt like the characters and the actors were more in sync. It's that thing of, you see it in shows from time to time where they've all been together for a season, and then you see the camaraderie and you see that teamwork as a cast. That I felt very much in spades in One Piece. The story overall, again, I don't know too much about the anime and the manga at all. I've tried to stay away from it, but I've got to say the fun, stupid craziness that this show presents really does make me want to watch the anime. But I am really hesitant with the sheer volume of episodes.
Yeah. No, I feel. Go on, sorry, carry on.
No, I was just to say it's hard, obviously, for me to say too much more as you've not watched it, but it's one of those shows that I hope that goes the mile. I really do hope that it's not one that they lose a little bit of steam as they're going through. I really do hope that they get to tell the full story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally understand. I adored the first series, to be honest. I was like, oh, this is just going to be like an average anime. And I think it's episode 4 of the live action, where you find out that Nami is in some real fucking trouble. And there's a sequence which is exactly pulled from the manga and then the anime, where Nami turns around to Luffy and just goes, help me. And it was that moment in the series I was like, oh fuck, no, this isn't just any old anime. This has got some fucking depth to it. There is something going on here. And that was really when it cemented it. I also loved that it is so unashamedly anime as well. I feel like most other companies making an adaptation of an anime shave the edges off, if that makes sense. They sort of round it off and make it a bit more acceptable to the mainstream. Whereas this doesn't. It just, no, we're a fucking anime. This guy's got ridiculously long arms and can punch shit, and does this and does that. And all the other insane fruits that exist in the world that they haven't even scratched the surface of yet. It's it's crazy. And it's like you, I watched the first series and was like, shit, I should watch the anime. But no, I am totally overwhelmed by the over 1,100 episodes of it that there are, because damn well some of those are going to be filler bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure I can put myself through that. My son, however, after watching the first live action series, we watched it together. And he then went and has now completed all of the anime. He's totally up to date with the anime. So there were some funny things, because that's why I haven't watched it yet, because we're watching it together. So we're watching a couple of episodes a week at dinner time. And we were watching the first episode of the second season, and I was like, oh, is this? And he was like, do you want me to tell you? And I was like, no, actually, you're right. I don't want you to tell me, because I know that you know the answer. So, but no, second episode, I finished it and was first episode of the second season, I finished it and was like, oh, I've missed this show. I really fucking missed this show. It's so good. So yes, I'm very, very much looking forward to finishing it, and then we'll cycle back round to it.
Yeah, it's rare these days that you get a full season drop on Netflix or Amazon these days.
Yeah, they don't do it anymore, do they?
It was a nice sit down, blitz it in an evening, didn't go to bed till at least 1 a.m. kind of a deal, which is a rarity. And again, it shows sometimes if my butt's in my seat and I don't want to go to bed, then I'm enjoying the show.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
that's cool, man.
That was number one. Number two is, weirdly enough, another Apple TV series that I think I mentioned to you, which I'm currently working my way through, which is For All Mankind.
Yes, I so want to watch that show.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. Again, it's not always the easiest of shows because it's balancing that act of a fictional era where the Soviets won the space race to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And while you've got the developments of technology and their push to get to the moon and beyond, sometimes the bits sometimes that hinder the story for me is the human drama, but that's sometimes also what's needed to push a show. So that's my only niggle, but I'm a good portion of the way through that now. The new season has just started, so it'll be one that I think we'll revisit. It does sound as though they've announced that there's going to be a final 6th season, and then that's it, capped and finished. So again, it's one with a finality in view, so we may revisit that once it's finished.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like I say, that is on my list. Yeah, I would definitely want to watch that one.
The third, sticking with the sci-fi theme, we're going to address the elephant in the room, which is Star Trek Starfleet Academy, which we're just going to address it. I didn't enjoy this very much, but that's not to say that other people won't. It's already been commissioned for a season 2, but that season 2 is it. So the ratings certainly have not done it any favors, and people haven't fully embraced it as they were perhaps hoping.
Yeah. I've heard multiple viewpoints. There's a guy who I normally respect his opinion at work who is telling me it is the best piece of Star Trek thing ever made. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then a critic who I very much respect did a 20-minute video about how it is essentially a slap in the face to everything Star Trek stood for. So there are, like you say, there's some very different opinions out there. My personal point of view is I watched the 2-episode sort of season start that they did. They dropped the first 2 episodes at once, didn't they?
Yeah.
I'll watch both of those, and I just went, you know what, this one's not for me. It's just not for me. It's more of a high school drama that just happens to be set in the world of Star Trek, and I'm in my 40s. I'm not the target audience for a high school drama these days. As much as I love Robert Picardo and and I know Paul Giamatti's in it, I'm just like, yeah, but you're not. It's about the kids and the drama. That's what it's about, and I just don't think it's for me, that one.
Yeah, I think we've now realised that the IP itself needs a massive break. It's
I think so.
Going to do the next couple of series of Strange New Worlds, because I think they've already shot both of them at this point. So they just
like that. And again, that has at least got an end date on it, because we know what's going to happen to Pike. So it's like you can't do that. Can't run forever.
No, but obviously now whether it would have continued or not, I doubt, because of the ratings. If I'm being utterly honest, I don't think it's done enough to impress those at the top. But the big thing, which again, we said one thing a couple of months ago, and at the 11th hour, Paramount swoops in, puts a new bid in for Warner Brothers, then ups that offer.
Yep.
And Warner Brothers sensibly went, yes, we'll have more money, thank you very much.
Correct.
Which is very contentious in Hollywood these days. I
think it's the lesser of two evils.
I think it's still an evil, but that, again, it's
Trump's son-in-law or whatever is part of the Skydance. He is a part of Skydance that then bought that, and the Saudi public funding Skydance as well. So like you say, but when the head of Netflix did interviews no more than 12 months ago saying there is no future in cinema, I don't see a future there. We're not interested in it. I don't want them to go and buy one of the oldest studios, putting films in cinema. Because again, for all that you may criticize Warner Brothers and their output, the reason they make shit like the Minecraft movie is because it then pays for Ryan Coogler to go and make Sinners. It pays for these other. They give then directors money. Yeah, go and do what you want with it, because they know they've got these other franchises that are going to bring in the big bank. So if you look back over, there was again an interesting video I watched where they look back over the history of Warner Brothers, and that has been their model. They want 2 or 3 tentpoles a year to bring in the mainstream money, so that they can fund the auteur projects, the indie films, and yeah. So Paramount are still evil, I do agree, but I do think they are the lesser of two evils in this case. But I said that all the way along when Netflix first did the bid. I said to people, no, it's not done yet, because Skydance, Paramount, they are going to do something, and that is Trump's son-in-law. And if you don't think that he's going to, it's got to go through an organisation that he is the head of, at the top of the tree of, and if you think he's going to let it through without a fight, I think you're wrong. And clearly, it did go the way I expected.
Yeah, we can say a lot on how it's going to impact Hollywood, but we'll see once the deal is done. But the sheer volume of intellectual properties that Paramount's now going to have picked up. But the other big question mark is also the debt that comes along with that. Are we going to see the scrapping of any projects that potentially have been filmed or should be filmed? Are they just going to look at that as a big old tax write-off? We've known Warner Brothers to do that many times before. What was it, Batgirl a couple of years ago?
I believe, let me just Google it before I say his name, although I'm not going to be quick enough to do that, so I'm going to say his name anyway to not leave dead air. I believe it was David Zaslav.
Yeah,
who
sounds
did
very much
that. Yes, he is the current CEO and president of Warner Brothers Discovery, and he is the one that did all that. What was it? Acme versus Coyote, Batgirl. There were a couple of others, weren't there, that got scrapped because he was like, "Oh, nah, I want the tax write-off." I'll tell you what, the bit that concerns me the most is actually, I believe, because Netflix were only interested in the movie studio side of Warner Brothers, whereas I believe the Paramount deal is everything,
Yes.
including DC Comics, the publishing arm of DC Comics. That's what concerns me, because if they don't see any money in the comic book side, the physical comic book side,
Who's going to gobble that up?
They'd shut that down pretty damn quick.
I don't think they'd shut it down. I think somebody else would gobble it up.
True. Yeah, I suppose they'd sell it off for somebody because of the IP rights that come with it. You're right. And I hope it doesn't affect James Gunn's plans.
Well, yeah, that's, again, there's a lot of projects now up in the air that you're like, both on Paramount side and Warner Brothers. Again, Warner Brothers just came out of the Oscars doing pretty well for themselves, and they've just sold themselves. It's that really funny thing of, yeah, we've done really well commercially and we've done really well critically. We're selling ourselves. I mean, what a good time to sell yourself at the top, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting times.
Yeah, did they do one battle after another? Yeah, they did. So. They distributed. That was the example. Another example I was thinking of. Like, say, for every Minecraft movie, that funds them giving Paul W.S. Anderson. Paul W.S. I'm really sorry, Paul Thomas Anderson. Not that you listen to this. I should never have tarred you with that brush. When we get to my bit, you'll realise why that name is in my head. But they get to give him $150 million or whatever it was to go and make an Oscar winner. That was their model for many, many years, and it worked for them for many, many years.
Yeah, interesting times ahead, I feel. We'll see.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then the final point is obviously Project Hail Mary. I encourage anybody and everybody to go and see it. My God, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Fantastic adaptation. But it's Drew Goddard again who adapted The Martian. Mm-hmm. And I love Drew Goddard anyway. He's done some great stuff like Cabin in the Woods. I think he was a writer on Buffy and Angel back in the day. He's done some great stuff. I may have even done Cloverfield, if I'm remembering rightly, the original the first one. So he's great. So when I saw he was adapting it, I was like, clearly Andy Weir, I would assume, has said, yeah, get him to do it because he did really well last time.
I mean, as I understand it, I think Gosling had picked up the rights to it before it had even been published. It's one of those probable deals of, this book is great, let's get it out. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll read it. Yeah, no, before it's even, So
get the option on that now.
Yeah, exactly. Because of how successful his other adaptation was, I'm sure there's people that are just itching at the bit. Again, there's, one of his other books, which, they're trying to figure out how they can logistically do that.
Artemis?
Yes, because of it being on the moon and things like that. So so there's elements of that. But don't get me wrong, I absolutely 100% love the film. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Anybody who has watched the film, I really do encourage you to listen. I would say read, but I still think the audiobook version with Ray Porter is just fantastic. But do genuinely listen to the book, because there are some elements of it which, again, unfortunately, you can't, even for a 2.5 hour film. There's a lot to pack in. They have to pull bits. There's elements of the story which I would love them to have elaborated on, but you're always constricted, especially when you're looking at the grand scale of space, and some of the scenes there were truly phenomenal. They're on another planet and they're going through the stratosphere and the ship is slowly sinking, but they still take a moment to look out and it's like, there's a big red plume of shit going there, but it looks beautiful. The
effects for the what do they call it? Tau Mebas. The effects, like you say, that sort of pinky purpley thing that they put on it. I don't know what filter they used or whatever, but it was fucking brilliant.
It was that thing of, they understood the source material, and again, from what I understand, they did consult, I think, Neil deGrasse, who, as I understand it, because he was a consultant on it. And it's that thing of, you want a film to be based in reality to a certain degree. And more we're seeing that, especially with less science. It is science fiction, but it's also science fact because they want it to be more factual, the reality of what it can do and what it can achieve.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of the appeal, I'm hoping that it does very, very well.
Well, this is it.
It's
I
good,
think
good actor, good story.
Yeah. And again, me and practical effects, like the fact that they built the entire inside capsule that he slides along on the chair, and it was able to go 25 degrees on either angle, so they could tip him back and forth and stuff. The fact that Rocky was a physical fucking puppet, which
not CGI, 100%.
So sorry.
So yeah, it wasn't CGI in any way.
No,
it was all.
But that blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
I was convinced 100% that he was CG and it was just really, really good. And then someone sent me a video to the puppeteer who actually made him and was puppeting him, put it up, and they ended up using that guy's voice.
Yeah,
for it.
Which again, I think is that organic part of Lord and Miller, with just the way they are. There were two bits that I picked up since Carl, the security guard, who starts helping him build stuff and build the box and this, that, and the other. He had a minor part. He was nothing until they just looked at that and went, no, you guys seem to get on. And again, the puppeteer and Ryan Gosling were getting on so well. They were like, well, let's just use the guy that you're constantly running the lines with. That it makes natural sense. So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I would have loved Ray Porter to have done it personally, but that's just me. Even if they did try and pull out Meryl Streep and various other people.
Someone did tell me that one of the test voices that they go to is Ray Porter.
Yes, I know. I noticed it, and I was like,
the audio book.
I
didn't spot it. I'll be honest, but someone told me afterwards. I was like, oh, was it? I didn't pick that out. But yeah, fantastic film. Anyway, I've been saying that there's a few female teachers at work who were asking me about it because they know I'm a film guy. They're like, oh, I'm on the fence. I'm not sure. I like Ryan Gosling, but it's all sci-fi. And I was like, well, did you watch The Martian? And they were like, yeah. I was like, so that's sci-fi, technically. We're not actually on Mars. It's sci-fi. I was like, this one gets a bit more into the weeds at times than Martian does. But still, Martian did talk about hard science at times. I said, the key for me, though, is, did you watch WALL-E? And they were like, yeah. I was like, did you fall in love with that robot? And they went, yeah. I said, so I guarantee you, go and watch this film and you will fall in love with the rock. It's just the way it is. You will fall in love with that rock. I guarantee it.
Yep. So that's me done. Over to you.
Cool. Right. Let's fly through some shit that I've watched then. I don't want to spend too long on it, but so Crime 101. Have you heard of that or seen that?
Yeah, I've heard of. Hang on. Wait. Why do I know this? Why do I know
it's
this?
Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Halle Berry, Barry Keoghan.
Yes, that's why I know it. Yes, I haven't watched it, but yes, I know of it.
Hemsworth plays basically an autistic assassin, but his whole thing is he doesn't kill anyone. Mark Ruffalo is on the trail of a killer that he believes is operating up and down Highway 101 in LA. But it's got that police boss thing of the police force chief is like, well, no, you must be wrong because that case that you think is part of this has been closed by this guy. And he's like, right, but you've got the wrong guy. And the chief's like, no, we haven't. We've closed the case. So we can't have the wrong guy. And there's two more that you're tying to this guy that we're actively investigating someone else for. So it's that thing of the top down going, no, we've closed the case. Shut up. We don't need another open case on our books, even if we're wrong. It's an interesting enough film. It's a bit of a thriller. It loses its way for me in the back end, and I'm sorry. I know she won an Oscar. I don't think Halle Berry's very good. She's all right at the role she's playing in this. But I don't think she's standout or anything. I never have.
It's always a bit hard when you do look genuinely at some actors that have won an award, even Emmys and stuff like that, and then you look at a project they do years later, and you're just like, huh?
Yeah, how did these two go together?
Yeah, again, I've used the example before, but I look at Robert Downey Jr. and fucking Doolittle, for Christ's sake. How is it a man that won an Oscar did that film?
Yeah.
But still boggles the mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Then I watched Mercy.
Yes.
Chris Pratt and Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched it because it's by Timur Bekmambetov, who is the Russian director that did A Night Watch and Day Watch 20 odd years ago, which I fucking loved. The Russian vampire movies. He never got to do Twilight, which is the third book in the series, but he's then since then has sort of they credit him as birthing what they call screen story movies. I may have mentioned things like this before, things like Unfriended, things like Searching with John Cho, I think, and War of the Worlds last year with Ice Cube was an example of it. Films where you are watching a character and the story is being told through a screen. So either they're sat in front of a laptop or they're going through their child's laptop, but you aren't out in the field. You are in a room looking at a screen and the stuff is going on around you. I mean, War of the Worlds last year was a fucking terrible film anyway, but also should be fucking... No one should watch that film. It should not be supported in any way because they actually used real-life war footage in the film and then CG'd tripods into the background of that footage.
Jesus.
So there is a point where a bomb, I believe it's a shot of Israel, and a bomb gets dropped on it. And that is a real bomb that killed real people that they have then CG'd a couple of tripods into the background of. And I'm sorry, if you're doing a war film, yes, I don't mind you using real footage to illustrate the point. But to take that and then comp a couple of fucking tripods into the background, that doesn't sit right with me. I'm sorry. I don't think that's right. The film is just over an hour and a half. It is basically real time. The setup is Rebecca Ferguson is an AI who is, as we're told at the beginning, judge, jury, and executioner. Chris Pratt is charged with the murder of his wife, and he has 1 hour and 30 minutes to prove to the judge that he is innocent.
That's a convenient runtime for a film.
Pretty much, isn't it? But it is literally real time. As soon as that hour and a half clock starts, it is basically real time to the end of the movie, which is interesting because you don't see that gimmick in cinema very often these days.
True.
But it isn't enough to make the film work, and it is, because it's so short, it's not a bad ride for an hour of it at least. But it's, the CG is pretty fucking shoddy in it, but they cover it because it's told through another screen. So it's either a security camera or it's news television footage. So, they can put a sheer over the front to try and hide how crap the actual CG is in the background because they didn't spend a lot of money on it. It was originally made for streaming. It's an Amazon Prime MGM Studios job. And it was originally made for streaming, but then they realised they'd spent too much money on the leads, so they decided to release it in the cinemas to try and recoup some more money. It's all right. It sounds like the kind of thing you're interested in, give it a go. It's not offensive in any way, other than the end. I hate the end, because the end, spoilers, if you don't want to know, don't listen for the next 30 seconds. By the end, the point is, it's okay. Humans make mistakes. So does AI. It's okay, guys. And I'm like, no. Not if the AI is judge, jury, and executioner. The mistakes are not good in that scenario. Because, it transpires that the AI sent an innocent man to his death by the end. And it's like, nah, it's fine. It makes mistakes, guys. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, no, I don't want that to be the takeaway from a fucking film about AI in 2026. I don't want that.
I have. Well, I suppose because it's another Tomorrow War kind of bullshit thing that Chris Pratt's done.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna watch one of these weird sci-fi
Damn
films that
that
he keeps
fucking
producing.
film.
But I have a question.
I don't know a level that Tomorrow War film actually makes sense on. I've never found a level.
I'm not opening that can of worms. If we ever want to do a time travel based episode, which we could, that could be one.
That's not bad shit,
That's not a bad chat. That would be dissected. You say that the AI makes mistakes. I have got no inclination to watch this, so. Again, those who are still listening, unfortunately, the spoilers here. Does the AI learn from its mistake, and does it have a conscience, or does the AI just basically not give a shit at the end?
Kind of.
Okay.
The AI ends up on Chris Pratt's side because it's weird. It's all about percentages. Like when he's in the chair at the beginning, it's like 92% positive that he did it, and he has to get that percentage below 90, I think it is. And then the trial stops, that's it. He actually goes to a human jury trial at that stage. So that they pitch it as that. It's like, oh no, she only deals with ones where the case is 90% proven anyway. And then his percentage goes up because of evidence that's found. Because he essentially has access to anything that the judge has access to. So he can look at personal footage inside houses, outside houses, crime scene evidence, everything. And like I say, his percentage goes up to about 90%, and then it starts working down from there. But then there's this really contrived bit where if he says what he's going to say, it will take the percentage below 90, which means the whole thing's going to stop. But they are onto a bigger thing, so they need to keep investigating. Like, it will cut him off from the evidence that he needs to continue investigating and find out who's behind the big plot. So they sort of do something contrived where, even though she knows that he didn't do it, they manage to keep the percentage above 90% so that they can keep access to the resources. It's all a bit convoluted, to be honest, by the end.
Yeah, it sure sounds like it. I switched off. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah,
exactly. I got bored halfway through my fucking sentence. So yeah, let's leave that one there. A bit of fun for anyone that is interested is The Bluff. It's either Amazon or Netflix. I forget which one now. Carl Urban and Priyanka Chopra. It's Amazon actually, because I reckon she's got a deal with Amazon because she was in Heads of State, which was an Amazon film. It is Pirates of the Caribbean if the pirates were actually fucking pirates. Like rapers, pillagers, murderers, thieves, not Johnny Depp rolling about on a beach, drinking some rum, being all Disneyfied. So yeah, if you want to see an actual pirate movie where the pirates are fuckers, watch it. Carl Urban's the big bad pirate. Priyanka Chopra is a lady who lives on an island that he decides to invade, and she has to try and defend her family. And actually, I quite enjoyed it. It's only, like I say, about an hour and 40 minutes, a couple of hours maybe. But if you like that kind of thing, it's worth it. However, I will, at this point, put a massive caveat in on the accents. Carl Urban starts out, I think, Irish.
Oh, God.
But it goes around the world a little bit. It certainly travels around parts of Europe, and then kind of ends up in Australia at times, and then comes back again. Priyanka Chopra starts out with a sort of Jamaican Caribbean accent, and then it sort of, by the middle, it's back to her normal sort of Indian twinged accent, and then it's a bit English at times, and then a little bit Irish maybe, and then sort of strays back towards the Caribbean by the end. But, that's the only real criticism I've got of it. It is an entertaining couple of hours, and I thought about it afterwards, and I don't think I've ever seen a pirate film that's proper pirates, I can't think of anything other than the Pirates of the Caribbean films that I've seen that is properly piratey.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Was it Black Sails? I watched the first couple of.
Oh yeah, I know there's been a series actually. Yeah, no, I never watched that.
But again, it didn't necessarily delve too much into the rapey, pillagey kind of aspect of it, which is a bit hard to get away with. Something. Yeah. Hey, it'll come one day. It'll come one day. The genres go through their spins. We're in a bit of a fantasy era, I suppose, at the moment, with a lot of bits and bobs. The superhero era feels like it's on a downward trend. So
it does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Fantasy era, maybe maybe that's going to come next. We'll see. We'll see.
A series I would like to mention, surprisingly as well, and it surprised me, to be honest, is Wonder Man. I'm assuming you haven't bothered with that one.
No, I did. I have watched it.
You have watched it?
Yeah, we had this discussion. Yeah. Oh no, I think I said I watched it, but I'll wait until you. I don't think you'd watched it at that point.
We've discussed it. Have we discussed it?
No, we haven't. We haven't discussed it, but we discussed that I'd watched it.
So yeah, I've now watched the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I really quite enjoyed it. I would watch Ben Kingsley and Yahya Abdul-Mateen chat shit for more episodes.
Well, you will do.
So, I thought it was really good, really surprising. It was not what I was expecting at all. By the third act, it doesn't end in the super part side of it is practically non-existent, It isn't a big smashy, crashy superhero thing, is it? It's actually quite restrained.
No, very much so. It's very much he's trying to contain that element, that superhero-y element is what he's trying to contain and not do anything about. It's no, I want to pursue my love, which is acting, not embracing or superheroics and saving people. So it's very different. It's hard at times because Wonder Man in the comics is a bit of a convoluted character and a bit of a dick a lot of the time as well. So it's really hard when you watch a show, and I still remember the Marvel character is a bit of a dick. And again, in the show, I think this is one of the things I said to our buddy Dave when we were talking about it. I was like, the only part at times that gripes me is where he goes OTT in his prep or his character and that whole method thing. And that's the only bit that I'm like, oh God, I feel like this is so much in Hollywood these days. But at the same time, this is them satirizing that as well. So that's kind of but again, him and Trevor Slattery just sitting in a room talking about their passion for the art that they're performing on screen in front of us is the double irony as well. And I don't know if you know, but it has been picked up for a season 2.
Okay. No, I didn't know that. But yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I'd happily watch more of it. Really surprised me because obviously Marvel has not been on much of an uptick.
Yeah,
so
they're
finally watch one and go, hey, that was good. And again, the episodes were like half an hour long, and there were 8 of them, and that was enough. I'd watch more, but that's good. I like what you've done.
Yeah, they seem to have embraced sorting their TV division out a bit more. Obviously, we're now just beginning to. We won't discuss yet. We'll wait until it's done. But Daredevil has just started up again. So we didn't discuss it previously before on the catch up. I think it's how this is going to play into Spider-Man and the grander scheme. They're going to incorporate. I think this series will answer a couple of those questions, but they seem to be sorting out their TV division a bit. I'm still not 100% sold on that because they still let Hawkeye season 2 slip through their fingers, and I'm not sure we're ever going to get that, which is a shame. And the only other one that I'm very concerned about is the fact that Ms. Marvel, again, I thought that series, for what it was and for the demographic that it was targeting, I thought it did very well. Yeah, that character still not having any solid future is still a bit of a grey mark for me as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, she's sort of tied up in that post-credit sequences that go nowhere, isn't she? Really, after the Marvels, it's like where we going from there? I don't know. And then they did the Young Avengers thing, didn't they? The Nick Fury-esque end of Avengers. They had her do with a couple of the younger characters as post-credit sequences, and that's gone nowhere. So yeah, no, I totally agree on that. Totally agree. But yeah, the Daredevil thing is interesting, and like you say, the Punisher because there's a Punisher one-shot is being released the same day that the final episode of season 2 of Daredevil Born Again releases, which is itself a few weeks out from the release of Spider-Man Brand New Day that we know features Punisher. So I wonder, my wondering is, are they, because it seems a lot to say to people, all right, you want to watch Spider-Man, you need to watch 2 series of Daredevil Born Again, and then the Punisher one-shot. So I'm wondering whether Daredevil Born Again will wrap up what it wants to do with Punisher and send him off, and then what they're doing is, oh, if you want to get up to speed with Punisher, you just need to watch the one-shot, and then you'll be ready for Brand New Day.
I don't know whether
they might be tying the whole thing together. You know,
yeah,
Born Again directly into the Punisher one shot, which may flow directly into Brand New Day. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, again, with certain characters, especially, Punisher, for example, driving down the street trying to fight bad guys. That's not normal to suddenly see in the middle of like a Spider-Man comic, So while I still think Daredevil's going to play into this. I still think Daredevil's going to appear in Spider-Man. So we're recording this pre-Spider-Man. So if he does, then I'm right. If he doesn't, then we'll re-edit this later on. But I do genuinely think that Daredevil's going to have some part to play. Do I ultimately feel like you need to have watched Daredevil and the Punisher special to enjoy Spider-Man? No. Will it add depth and layer? Sure, but I think that's the thing that they're trying to find, that fine line of, you don't need to watch every property to get every character and all the elements of it. But if you do, you'll get another layer. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. A few trailers I just wanted to discuss with you. Sure. Toy Story 5. You seen the trailer for that one?
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard, having watched Toy Story over the years and having watched the one where they're all in the fire and they're all about to burn.
Number 3. And, the end of number 3 would have been a perfect end. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Would have been the absolute perfect end. And then we got the next one, and I was like, it's okay. I still felt, emotional resonances and all that kind of stuff. And it was still, and again, so now it's a little bit further along and kids aren't even, I can't lie that the story it's telling isn't relevant, because it totally fucking is.
Exactly what I thought. I was like, you fuckers. You have picked a storyline that I am very interested in you exploring, actually.
Yeah.
Shit. You gits, you're going to make me watch another one, aren't you?
Yeah, 100%. Again, I have the pure luxury of not having kids myself. Well, some people would see it that way. Some people wouldn't. But anyway, that's the digression. But I don't have to deal with kids with screen time.
My kids ever listen.
Oh, sure. Obviously, my nieces and friends' kids, rah, rah, rah. But I think, I'm not a parent myself, so I don't deal with it 24/7. I don't deal with that. Oh, Jesus, I just want to show my kid up. Here's a device. While, again, I'm out of an era where computers and technology was on the rise and, improving, rah, rah, rah. If I'd have had access to information like an encyclopedia and stuff like that really easily, that's great. But now every fucker thinks they're a smart ass. Everybody thinks that they've got... And so I'm curious to see how they're going to do this from the child perspective and the parent perspective. At a toy perspective, what the fuck? I'm very interested. That's the hook. I'm like, you bastards. And again, for any adult who watches that trailer and they take the piss out of Woody, being a little thin on top. I'm good, but there's plenty of people out there not saying any names at all, that are getting a bit thin on top.
Yeah, indeed. Back to Marvel. I suppose I should have started with Marvel. That would have been a better segue.
Yeah, that would have been,
Never mind. I'd got it written down the other way round. We haven't discussed on or off pod any of the Doomsday trailers.
No, it's a little... Until I get a real trailer, I don't...
That's it. There are all these
speculation
things saying, well, return.
I've not had a trailer. I've not seen anything that would give me some indication as to what the story is. It's all still a bit of a jumble at the moment. Yeah. Again, it's a ways off before the whole. And I still have this $200 million on 2 directors and an actor thing.
Yeah,
It's still a bit of a crawl for me. We'll see. I'm not going in mad into the hype just yet. If I see a real legit trailer that really, I imagine that's going to come with Spidey. Come to think of
I
it now.
think you're probably right. Yeah, because it's this year, isn't it? It's December this year. It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's it. It's funny because Dune's already dropped its trailer.
Yeah. I saw that in Project Hail Mary. Actually, you're right. Yeah,
and they're competing. So that's an interesting one to be the first out of the gate to drop your trailer to get a bit more hype around it. We'll see.
Yeah, I think the most interesting two were the only interesting two were the X-Men one and the Shuri one. Because they actually showed some stuff that made you go, oh, I wonder what that is. Rather than just like random images of a character that there's like, oh yeah, this guy's coming back. It's like, well, I knew that.
Yeah, again, it's they look like they're going to have a good cinematic moment for Cyclops, but it also looks as though it's basically the X-Men. It's just put a big red X through the X-Men. At this point, they're going to be done very much after this film. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and then final one is the trailer for Lanterns. Have you seen that?
I have. Yeah, underwhelmed so far with that. The fact that it got pushed back didn't fill me with confidence with it. But it's, again, one where James Gunn said, no, I've got a completed script. It's good. I'm going to hand it off and, it can be made. So he's given it his stamp of approval. I'm still not down with the way that he finished Peacemaker, season 2. I'm still not down with how that finished, but it is what it is.
I find it really odd that he's chosen to play off one of the least, as far as I was aware, one of the least popular DC storylines in the last 20 years.
Yeah,
like that's dropped off. Because you know me, I collected everything at one stage, and it was that Salvation Run stuff that I was like, what? This is shit.
Yeah.
I stopped reading it, but there you go.
So, again, I think time will tell with that one. Time will tell.
Yeah.
Again, whether they're saving any of the good stuff for when the show comes out, because sometimes let's get a teaser trailer that actually piques the interest a bit, and then the first episode drops and, oh, shit, no, it suddenly gets word of mouth. I'm hoping it's something along those lines.
Yeah. I think for me, obviously, that, Green Lantern, Hal Jordan is my fave. I don't mind Kyle Chandler's casting, but the character he's playing is not my Hal Jordan, to coin a modern phrase. It's not mine. But I was thinking about it, and I don't think I've ever read a Hal Jordan story where he is, a gruff end of the career, looking to pass the torch sort of character. So, there's something in there. I'm willing to give it a chance because of what it is. But yeah, I don't see a lot of the character I understand as Hal Jordan in the character he's playing. But like you say, time will tell.
I mean,
I'm trying to keep an open mind.
Yeah, I mean, therein lies part of the issue that comic books as a medium have got these days, in that you keep the same characters at the same age roughly for decades at this point. There's only so much growth some of them are getting, and I feel like that's getting to a crux point. But that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's all I had to say. I'm not going to bother mentioning the other thing I was going to mention, because we can talk about that at any time, and I've got to rewatch them all again anyway, because they're so forgettable. I've already forgotten them, and I'm only halfway through my script. So yes, we shall now then. So spoiler warning, spoilers, for Pluribus season 1 and Severance seasons 1 and 2.
Okay, next time I think we need like you need to press a button because that was horrible.
Was it?
Like red alert kind of like, oh god, yeah, like red alert sound like, I know Star Trek's gonna disappear, but yeah, do that next time.
Yeah. So we've grouped these two series together, for more than the tangential links. That is, they're both Apple TV shows, and they're both sort of high concept sci-fi, I would argue, really, at their core.
Yeah, very much that kind of cerebral mystery sci-fi show.
Great word, cerebral. Absolutely. But I always have faith it knows where it's going. There were moments in season 2 of Severance, as we'll get into, where I was like, are you going to stick the landing? I'm not sure you're going to stick the landing. But they do largely seem to be. I do have some odd questions by the end of the second season, but maybe that is as they intended it. But anyway, Severance. Let's start. I would just like to run down the cast. For anyone that doesn't know, the cast here is insane. And it's what I've found the most amusing is that since I started watching the show, some of the smaller roles, I'm like, oh, you're in Severance. Oh, you're in Severance. Like, they keep popping up all over the place. So obviously you've got Adam Scott plays Mark S. I wasn't aware of him at all other than Severance.
I've seen him in everything. I've seen him in everything.
He's been before Severance.
Yeah, he's been in the industry for a good couple decades now. I was never a fan of Parks and Rec, but I knew that he was.
No, I never watched Parks and Rec.
I wasn't a fan of it either. There's too many actors in that I can't stand. But I knew that he was in it. But again, yeah, he's one of those actors that I've seen appear in bit parts in this, that, and the other. So yeah, I was familiar with him.
Fair enough. Yeah, I didn't know him, and looking through his stuff, I can see why. It's series that I never watched. I know him. I first, other than Severance, he's another one who's in the studio, playing himself. So he plays Adam Scott in the studio, and he does quite a fun job of that during that show. The female lead I was not hugely familiar with before this, Britt Lauer. But then I looked into it and was like, oh no, I have seen some stuff. I just hadn't quite remembered you looking, like you look in the show sort of thing. Had you come across her much?
Again,
she's like a random episode of Always Sunny, but you know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah, it's that thing of like you recognize a number of the character actors in this and you kind of go, oh, I've seen them in several things before. And sometimes I think this is one of those series where you see some people in something before and then they get a bit of stardom because they're all in the right project at the right time with the right director, with the right writer. And it feels very much like this for a number of these actors, if I'm being utterly honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't disagree. But yeah, she's very good. Obviously, they're all good. That's the point, really. The one who surprised me the most is Dylan. Zach Cherry is the actor's name.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan G, I want to say.
Yeah,
because he is also in Fallout.
Yes,
which I didn't mention this time, but I have finished season 2 of Fallout now. So maybe we'll discuss that another intro. And like I know he'd done voices in some odd voices in Lower Decks, and had sort of been there or thereabouts, and Crapopolis and stuff. So like I was aware of him, and obviously he's one of those guys that you see him and you recognize him. He looks a very particular way. Like he had a random role in Homecoming that I remembered him from. He's just like a hot dog seller or something in it, yeah, I really like Dylan G's character. I think the way they explore that character, particularly in the second season, is fantastic, and he does such a good job with it. That and again, they all do, because there are two different sides to each of their characters, so they have to play them slightly differently. You know, yes, at the core you are the same person, but actually you're not. So yeah, I thought he does a really good job. And one of the biggest standouts for me is Tramel Tillman.
Oh yeah,
as Milchek, because again, he's a random submarine captain in Mission Impossible. He's I think he's the host of the Running Man TV show in the Edgar Wright remake. If I'm right on that.
I don't think that's him. I think
No,
that's,
it's not, is it? I've
no.
totally mixed that up. Fair enough.
No.
Ignore me, guys. Sorry. I have totally
I
mixed
think that's
that up.
Coleman Domingo.
You're right. You're right. Absolutely right. But, you know, yes, his performance, again, in some of the bits we'll get to, the way he plays it is just incredible. He's almost, you'd almost think the character is bipolar at times, you know, the way it goes from a smiling, laughing, dancing, cheery to cold menace. I think he does really well with.
Yeah, again, another. He's one of these guys who, once you've seen his performance in this, you can't unsee it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's just the first dance music number. We'll just say that, and if you understand, you understand. That almost broke me.
Yeah,
with this character.
Yeah,
because I was watching it, and my brow furrowed, and then I smiled, and I didn't understand what I was doing, but my God, did I enjoy it! It was the weirdest sensation, and that man just put on a little bit of magic. And again, if you at all curious about. If you're this far along, you're probably listening because you've watched the show as well. Go and watch. There's a couple of videos of him when they did, I think it's the Paley Fest, I think they call it. And he walked in, I think this was after season 2, and he walks in with a full marching band. And he's doing it as a cadet. He walks in, he does and he walks straight back out again, because that's how much this guy's committed to the bit. And that's what I loved about it.
Yeah, totally agree. I was pleased to see Dishan Lachman, who plays Gemma. Don't know whether I'm saying her name right. That's how I've always said it. Gemma, Miss Casey. Obviously, her arc in the second season is incredible, and he's tied to a lot of answers. Patricia Arquette, I think, is phenomenal in this. She's another one of those actresses that I've never rated her particularly, but good God, Harmony Cobell is a hell of a character, and she does so well with it. Again, it's this cold malice that, and her character particularly never drops that, even outside of Lumen. She is always that way. Even again towards the back end of the second series, as we'll get to, I'm just fascinated by the way she does it. I think it's really interesting, and again, when they get into her character and you see her background and how she came up, and it starts to explain why she is that way and always is that way and will not be any other way.
Yeah. She's such an intriguing character, because you genuinely don't know at different points where her loyalties lie.
Yes.
That is always again, I think I said this before in another pod, where that kind of a character always interests me, because you don't know. At the drop of the hat, they could stab their employer in the back, or they could stab one of their employees in the back. It's always one of those yin-yang kind of things. Which way is she going to go? She's a fascinating character. And again, played by a great actress. Again, not all of the Arquettes are necessarily good actors. I think that's been a given. But she's definitely one that was always guaranteed to do some good roles. And again, the right actress for this role.
Yeah. Took me about 4 episodes to realise that's who it was as well. Because she looks so different in it to the way I've got her pictured in my head. Although, to be fair, I blame our IMDb picture looking at this. Because
IMDb's never really too genuine with some of them these days.
John Turturro and Christopher Walken as Irving B and Bert G. Those two, wow. The sequences, again, particularly like some of the beautiful sequences they have in the first series when they're meeting each other and essentially falling in love are just heartwarming. Like, I just couldn't be angry at them. I was so wrapped up in their little romance they were having, and I just wanted it to work for them, you know? And it's so good that those two, like, I thought about it and I was like, I wonder how often as a, I don't know, what do we reckon? 60s, 70s, those two
70s at this point.
Yeah. How often do they get a role come across their table that's as interesting and rich in terms of the plot and the acting that you're going to be asked to do, and then to have a gay romance? Like, I wonder how many times that script comes across their desk, because I don't imagine it's that frequently. So to see those two taking on that material, and then again in the second season where what happens to them there, it's just beautiful. And it's another one of those things that I'm like, I could just watch you two talk and have dinner all day. I would just watch.
Yeah, it's funny when you see on-screen interactions between literal Hollywood legends at this point in Turturro and Walken. I mean, name me a film where Walken isn't fantastic, even in his unique, quirky way. Turturro, he's just phenomenal. He has been for years. I fell in love with him watching Coen Brothers stuff because he was a stalwart of all the Coen Brothers stuff. Oh, brother, where art thou? He plays
the one that got me. That was the first one that put him on my radar, and I was like, Jesus, you're good. You're real good.
See, and you just said the J word there, who he plays in The Big Lebowski.
Yeah,
and that's the one that sold me. That film, still, resonates with my heart and then some. Of course. But the interactions that sometimes you see with certain actors, you don't see in some shows or some films, and the characters that they play. Again, this is a gay couple in their late 60s, 70s. I would never have imagined either of these two ever to have picked up on this role as two guys who are using their innies and their outies to have two very different but simultaneous, very sweet relationships. Where the fuck I didn't expect that. So yeah, there's some real good surprises that have come out of this, and I'm actually going to give props to, although she didn't come around until the second season, is Sarah Bock, who plays Miss Huang.
Yes.
So incredible to be that young. I don't know how old she is. She did not appear to be, probably older than 20, if that. To walk into a production as crazy as this and be so unbelievably good against some of these people, like her against Tillman, is just phenomenal.
Yeah. She turns 20 in August of this year.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No, like you say, she is incredible. An incredible addition to the second season. And like you say, it's that Mill chick and her playing off each other. And if there's another season, I assume we'll see what happens to her. The other one I want to shout out, a couple, is bloody Gwendolyn Christie in the second season.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I didn't notice her the first time she was in it. It was the second time that I was like, oh shit, that's you. And Mr. Drummond. Now, apologies, sir, if you're listening, I'm going to butcher your name. Olafur Dari Olafsson is what I'm going with. Again, people will be aware, you will have heard me say Silent Menace, Cold Menace. I love that sort of bad guy in my stuff. And he is one of those. And he is such an imposing figure to behold visually. And I really like that because of the setting of Severance, largely being in tight white corridors. He fills the corridors when he's in them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's that presence that he brings to it just by his physical size that I was like, fuck, I would want nothing to do with you. And there's particularly the Milchick's performance review. I'm just sitting there going, reach over and punch him. Just punch him, Milchick. Just reach over and smash his face into the desk if you can. But obviously he doesn't. He keeps his composure. But Jesus, yeah, I think he's brilliant as Drummond. He plays that perfectly for me.
Yeah, I think the other two of this is the other two. I suppose the other two.
I spent 10 minutes on this, but I just want to mention Devon and Rickon.
Yeah, I was going to say
the other two sort of side characters that come
as as the sister and brother-in-law for Mark S. They add a different dynamic to it because they are both good at what they're portraying, but it's again, you've got this bumbling idiot who just doesn't understand his weird, sweet nature has actually influenced so many people inside Lumen. And you're just like, what the actual fuck? You just think he's just coming out with inane babbling. But when they start reading it, and again, all the bloody, supposed theories that he could be one of the Keers and this, that, and the other, you look at the character and you suddenly go, are you a plant? Like, is there more to this story?
Yeah.
Like, and his sister's continual reactions to his crazy behavior. And trying to be supportive and whatnot. Again, you get different avenues of different characters, and these are the supportive characters. They're very much the supporting support characters.
Yeah,
and they do it very well.
It's like that first, where you're first introduced to them at the dinner party that Mark goes to. And I fucking hated every single fucking person around that table. Like, those people who are just so far up their own fucking arse that they think their shit smells like strawberries. And I just fucking hated every single one of them, apart from his sister. I did even hate Rickon at that point, because Rickon is one of those people. But
he's one of those
as the series goes on and into the second series, the character does develop and change and become more, more rounded, I feel. But yeah, obviously, a lot of other supporting cast and interesting performances of the Egans and the woman who gets introduced to help him out. I forget the character's name, to be honest, in the second season. It's a strong cast all round, but, these are the standouts for me, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so we've said far too much probably on the cast as it is.
That was a 10-minute section in my head.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. But I mean, that's a love fest for again, to show the passion of the people that are playing these characters. But so the story itself, again, let's just quickly get it down into a nutshell, just so that everybody's all.
Yeah, I suppose we should start that story. I'm all out of order today, guys. I'll try and order things better next time. Yeah, we should have perhaps started with the plot, just in case anyone hasn't watched it but is interested anyway.
Well, now that you've heard a rave review of the cast, let's hear the plot. So we've got this mega corporation called Lumen, who people go through a procedure that effectively separates a part of their conscious and unconscious mind, hence this term severance. Now, within the confines of the Lumen company, when you go down an elevator, you basically forget everything and everyone in the real world, and essentially a separate you is created. A complete blank slate, like an infant, but still with functioning logic and muscle memory and
basics, doesn't it? It's more memory and stuff that isn't there, isn't it? So the idea is you split your work self from your home self, so that when you walk out of work at the end of the day, you don't bring any of that shit with you, because you literally are a different person when you walk out of, like you say, when you come down the lift, aren't you?
Yeah.
And it's such an interesting idea that I can see why they went with it, because it's a dream we would all have, isn't it? To literally be able to leave work at work and not think about it when you're at home at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's I suppose there's some people in the world who, that's the thing. There are people who work to live,
Yes.
and there are those people who live to work.
Yes, correct.
And
Agreed.
if I'm, I'm a work to live kind of a man myself.
Same here.
So, but it very much is that question of, even with the sci-fi element of creating a new identity and things like that. I think again, it's that commentary on how many people do effectively do that. In the sense of their home life, they're one person, where at work, they're completely other.
Yeah.
In our minds now, we're conscious and we're aware of that, but is there an unconscious part of you that walks into a building and suddenly becomes a different person?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting idea. I once had a discussion with a guy years ago. I mean, I'm going back 10, 15 years or whatever, when I was working in a different job. And I was talking to him one day and I was like, yeah, but I've got different versions of myself. I was like, there's work me, there's home me, there's the me that I am when I'm with my parents. There's the me that I am when I'm around my kids. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, because you behave differently in different situations, don't you? Like when I'm work, I behave differently than I would if I was at home on my own or with my kids or visiting my family, Even silly little things like when I'm around my kids, I don't swear. When I'm at my parents', I still don't swear. I'm in my 40s. It still feels wrong to me to go to my parents' house and swear. Maybe it shouldn't. I don't know. But, that is the facts of the matter. So, yes, I adapt my behaviour very slightly in some certain cases or more in other cases. Again, I used to have to go and do cold calls at places. And there is nothing that fills me with more dread than walking into a place and trying to sell someone something when you've got no lead in there at all and you've never met anyone in there. But I used to have to do it. And I look back now and realise that, yeah, I'd step out of my car and essentially be a different persona. I would be the version of me that knows exactly what's going on and is confident and knows his products and can answer any question on them, and you put me on the spot and I'm fine. But that was I suppose the modern psychiatrical explanation for it would be a mask in the modern day. It was a mask that I put on to be able to do those things, because at my core, they are not something that I would want to do. But yeah, I totally identify with the point of this. And I think there's a lot of people who are like that. And obviously, as you work over the years, you do get better at compartmentalizing and going, no, as soon as I'm walking out that door, I'm not thinking about that shit again until Monday. But you can't always, can you? Because sometimes shit does just overload you and you end up sat at home going, fuck, yep. This is going to hang on till Monday now and I'm not going to be able to not think about it.
So, obviously, that's the thing. It suddenly becomes, watching the show of a guy who basically is just, for a certain portion, which is, again, it's the puzzle I find where he is so drowning in grief because of the death of his wife that he opts to go to a job where the severance occurs, and for a good chunk of the day, he doesn't have to think about it. That's essentially how we learn this character's life began at Lumen. But it's the funny thing, because as soon as you walk in and that part of you goes and does the job, as soon as you leave, you're still thinking about it. You just cut out a little bit of the day where you're not thinking about the thing that you're thinking about when you walk in, because it's the job that you go into to try and cut out the thing that you're thinking about. And as soon as you leave, you're still thinking about it because this is the job where you try to cut out the thing you want to think about, you're going to think about when leaving.
Yeah, I mean that is one. That is my one. That is one of my.
That's
questions.
the only thing that I'm a bit like, ah.
Yeah, that is one of my questions. Is I don't understand why anyone would do this to escape from something.
Yeah,
because you're cutting out. Yeah, all right, 6-8 hours of the day. You're not going to be thinking about it. But like you say, you're going to arrive at the office, get in the lift, and then the next second you're getting out of the lift at the end of the day. So you're not taking yourself away. You know, that memory, the loss that you've had, the trauma that you're dealing with is still there in your personal life. It's not like you've gotten rid of it from that side. So that's the only part of the whole thing that makes you go, I don't understand why anyone would do this. Because it doesn't help you hide from trauma in my head. But I know the way they do explain it by the end of the second season when we get the backstory on Mark and Gemma and their life before Lumen is that he was turning up drunk to work. So he couldn't focus on work. He couldn't do his job. Therefore, he was going to get fired. So he needed to do something else. So, all right, okay. Yeah, I'll go with you then. I'll accept that as the explanation. But I do still come out of it going, I don't know why anyone would do this. I can't fathom.
Yeah, but then therein lies the beginning mysteries of the show, where not everything is as it seems. Whether his entrance into Lumen was preordained,
quite,
and meeting of a collection of oddball characters because they are creating new personalities as soon as they are awakened, essentially. It's not like I'm coming down here with memory and experience. The only memory and experience I have is that which is in this very small area, and that's being driven by the person who created Lumen, this very mythical figure of Keir Egan, who is depicted in various different ways with paintings and murals and statues.
Yeah, or the what's it called? The wing that they go to that begins with a P. Fuck, I've forgotten the name now. Hang on, I've forgot Perpetuity Wing.
Perpetuity Ring, yes.
The Perpetuity Wing in the first season, don't they? And it's like it's almost like a hall of fame for the previous CEOs of the company. This Egan family that is so revered. I wonder whether that side of it is like, it almost strikes to me, particularly as again you go into the second series where we go to that town where there was a Lumen factory, presumably being run by child labor, is what they seem to suggest, and that's why it was shut down. It's almost got a cult or organized, certain organized religion field. I wonder whether that's the commentary they're trying to make on, like, Scientology, to pick one out of the example. A completely insane story behind a religion that people buy into and are dedicated to and devote their lives to. I wonder whether that's the commentary they're trying to make with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of allegory all over the place
Quite.
A lot of things. It's interesting as the experiences and the relationships between them develop in such that they don't all, they're given essentially a handbook or a guide, the guide of Keir, which so many of them, it's literally a Bible to them. Like, it's a religion to some of them.
That's it. That's what I mean. It's got those feels, hasn't it? And
we've just stumbled on these 4 little cohorts now who are essentially going to break the system, because of the various elements of their own personal lives outside, which they're bringing inside. You've got Marquez and the stuff that he's dealing with. Then you've got Heliar, who turns out to be an Egan herself.
Eleanor Egan.
John Turturro's character, who turns out to be investigating Lumen on the outside as well. So you suddenly see these tendrils and these threads where there were none to begin with, and that's where the mystery starts to deepen. And the addiction begins to spread for this goddamn series, if I'm being honest, because when I watched the first series, I genuinely must have watched this in 2 evenings because I was like, this is unbelievable. The storytelling. It's not also the storytelling, it's the way that it's shot. And some of the scenes are just, it's out in the snow in, I don't know, I'm going to say Alaska or something like this. It's very... Man. Yeah, it's just this massive imposing building out in the white. And just the way that it's all depicted is very sterile and it's intentional. And I think it's just been phenomenal that the person that I never really loved as an actor, and I've started to appreciate him more and more, is Ben Stiller. I was never a huge fan of his work, but I the older I get, I seem to find more of appreciation. The fact that he's the driving force behind this was a huge surprise to me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the comments I've got about the first season, particularly after the first episode. I've just had a flick through my notes, and my first note is, Jesus Christ, Ben Stiller can direct. Who knew? Like, I know he's directed stuff before, but nothing showed me that until this that the pure visual style and the compositions of the shots, the choices of the angles, like I say, particularly in that pilot, where you're watching Mark going into the building and it's shot from above, but it's all very symmetrical, and it's amazing. Like, and obviously he directs various other episodes as you go through both seasons, but I just wrote at the end of it, I was like, that is a pilot episode. That is how you fucking do a pilot episode. I am hooked right away. The mysteries are intriguing. I did find that the first series particularly, I was far more interested in what was going on inside the building than I was in dinner parties he was going to with his sister outside the building. But obviously they totally flipped that by the end of the first series, when the innie ends up on the outside at a party, and obviously the cliffhanger at the end of the first season is fucking epic.
Yeah, the fact that again it starts to, as it goes on, reveal little bits of information, and then suddenly we get the overtime, which just comes out of nowhere. You're like, oh, okay, if they're in a building, sure, okay, they go down an elevator, and okay, they go past a certain point, okay, they switch because that's just... No, there is a switch. Because they put a fucking chip in your brain, there's a switch that they could flick at any time to turn you into that person. And that becomes a little bit like, was it Dollhouse?
Yeah.
Joss Whedon-esque kind of thing of, having that. So there was, but the fact that wasn't even a consideration at that point, and then suddenly they're like, no, this is what we're going to do. Now that they know that that's a possibility, let's see what happens when we're in the real world. And that was fascinating.
Yeah, it really was. Really was. I think the first series is an incredible first series of television. I think if you take it as a whole, like I say, the way it looks, the way it feels, the way it's shot, the acting, the story, the mysteries. It is an incredible first series of television, I think. But the start of the second then broke my heart for a bit, because the second series starts and Mark returns to work and he's the only one there. It's 3 new people. And I was like, no, where's the old team? I want the old team. I don't want these people. And I was really quite upset for a bit, but obviously, by the second or third episode, that is resolved and they're back. Macro data refinement are back to the way they were.
Yeah, let's just address the macro data refinement, which is, this is the weirdest fucking thing in the world, where they're circling around like with an old ball, like the oldest computers created kind of. Yeah, and they're just rolling it around these numbers to get a gut feeling to box it and put it in a pot at the bottom of the screen. But whatever these numbers are, whatever is going on, is weird as fuck. Is all I could say about that. It is bonkers that they're doing this, but it's bonkers when you see them doing it, and you're like, "What the fuck does this mean? What are you capturing people's souls? Like
exactly."
What the fuck, man? And that is it's again, it's the simplest of things by just rolling a wheel on a mouse and putting numbers in a box. But it has got the internet and the whole world guessing at what it's meaning. And I think that is brilliant. Just it's another layer on top of okay, we're gonna put in this weird religious bunch of people. And this company's been really and also we've been putting people's souls in boxes, perhaps, maybe. And also we kidnapped your dead supposed wife is what we uncover at the end of the first season, which is
someone finds out his wife's not dead, doesn't he?
She's alive is kind of how he ends the first season.
Yeah, that's the end of the first season, isn't it? Yeah.
What the hell does all this? And that's it. He comes back and no. I'm having my team back. My team, who I trust. You want me here to do this job. I need those people to do it. And I think it's where Milchek just kind of, I think that's, again, it's one of Tillman's things of like that internal struggle is like you can see it on his face at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's episode 3 or something where, because obviously, Patricia Arquette's Harmony Cobell is not the boss by the start of the second season. Milchek, her understudy, Travis Tillman, has taken over as the head of the Severed Floor, and they give him the pictures. Everyone who ends up running that floor receives 3 pictures, which are famous pictures of Keir Egan redrawn, it would seem, to reflect them in him. So they give him 3 pictures, which are poses of Keir Egan, but Keir Egan has been coloured black, so that the black Travis Tillman can identify with a white Keir Egan. And the way he plays that scene and receiving those gifts is epic. It is a fabulous piece of acting by him because there are no words for it. He has to stay and have gratitude and be very thankful for this. But his face is telling an exceptional story during the entire sequence.
Yeah, and then it's later on when he quizzes another person about whether they'd received a similar gift.
And Natalie, isn't it?
Yeah, and that person just is not interested in any attempt at conversation or building any bridge about race or anything at this point. She's like, it's that look of don't
she
talk
seems
to me about this.
What you would call a lifer, Yeah. She's like, no, I know exactly what they're doing and I'm going with it. I'm not going to argue. And that's where I get into the organized religion bit that they really start to go for in the second season, where you see all these towns that were built around it, and a woman who is preaching it, like you say, like it's a gospel. But the bit at the end of the, what do they call it? The Ortbo, is it? The recreational retreat that they go on.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to mention that. The ending of this.
Ortbo. But during that, they introduce something called the 4th appendix to the books of Egan, as it were. And again, when you think about that, it's very Bible. The Old Testament was a bit too fire and brimstone, so let's do a New Testament that's a bit more help thy fellow man.
Yeah.
And it's very much that. Like the other 3 appendices are fire and brimstone if you do things wrong, and then this 4th one is introduced out of the blue that no one ever seems to have heard of, but apparently has always existed. and is a bit more skewed to, yeah, no, be kind to everyone, help them out if they need it. You know, we're all in this together.
Yeah,
and again, I think that's very much playing on Bible things. But sorry.
Yeah, most definitely. That whole episode in of itself is one of the best episodes of the entire run.
Fantastic.
Because again, by this point, it's that thing of like with a good series, you don't always need everything spelling out. And I think this is one of the things that we said about this in Pluribus. They are not feeding you the answers. There is not a sheet of paper which is telling you this is the subplot that you need to understand. You don't have somebody quite literally speaking out the plot as so many films I want to do now. I know that I heard,
isn't it? It's signpost. Oh, I've got to signpost everything.
Yeah,
we've got to sit down and have a character explain where we're up to in the plot right now because it's been half an hour.
100%.
Telling instead of showing.
Yeah, it's pick up on subtleties. It's not trying to say you need to be smart to watch this TV show. It's basically saying if you're smart and you watch this TV show, you might find it a little bit more enjoyable because you might pick up on something or see something before we reveal it to you. And in this episode, it was very much for me that thing of, I hate sometimes to be a bit too smart when I notice something that I shouldn't. And with this, it was somebody's pretending to be somebody that they aren't. And that is always fascinating. I always find that, playing the spy, we've played La Resistance. La Resistance often enough to have enjoyed that kind of dynamic before. And yeah, I picked up on the person who wasn't supposed to be who they said they were. But
so did I. Exactly the same point Irving did, I'll be honest.
Yes.
But like when that character, when Heliar reacted so meanly and angrily to the other, I was like,
that's not you.
Herself.
Yeah, that's not you. That was again, whether it was carefully orchestrated or not to make the viewer think that, but it's the way that they go about revealing this. And I'm sorry, God bless him, John Turturro, drowning a woman to try and make her reveal herself has to be the worst thing that he's done. But as soon as it's done and she reveals herself and then it switches to Heliar, the embrace he gives her speaks volumes to that character. And it's one of the most heart-wrenching moments of the entire thing. He's like, I don't want to put my friend through peril, but I fucking got to.
Yeah.
And oh God, it was heart-wrenching. But again, it starts to peel back even more layers. You're like, how manipulative are these people that what is their end goal? That she needs him to fall in love with her. What? So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another episode I'd pick out would be, I think it's the 6th episode. I called it the horny episode. Like, there is that episode where it's just all about the horny. Because Dylan G snogs his wife. Like any Dylan G snogs his wife. Bert, Irving, John Noble outside of Lumen have their get-together dinner. And I was like, oh, are we going to get a geriatric threesome maybe?
There was a lot of sexual tension in that meet.
Yeah, over that dinner. Helly and Marquez, because obviously Helly and Marquez slept together on the retreat, but actually that wasn't Innie Helly R. That was Helena Egan. So then Helly R Innie version comes back in and he's like, oh, fuck, I slept with you, but not with you, with the other you. Like, it fucks with my mind so much, and I fucking love that it does, you know?
Yeah. Throughout all of this, we've also got the other part of the story, which is his reintegration, because one of his old best friends,
Petey,
that was it, from Lumen, from way back in the first series, who basically sends him down the rabbit hole of, no, Lumen's not what you think it is. As a result of him dying and blah, 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 Mark comes to the decision that, he wants to reintegrate because he needs to find out the answers for Gemma, his wife. What the fuck is she doing in Lumen? How can he save her? Rah, rah, rah. And then then it's that part of when we suddenly start seeing that split and the joining of his different parts of his life to when we finally get him essentially having a conversation with himself. One of the I don't know how they would have done that, whether he was building on that conversation as they're shooting it, because 1 minute he's talking into a phone and the next you're getting the reaction of that person getting that message.
Yeah, it's a camcorder. He keeps recording.
Yeah, it's thank you. Yeah, it's camcorder.
Because they go to the birthing retreat, don't they?
Yes.
So he's in the living room recording. Innie is in the living room recording stuff. And again, I was like, why would a birthing retreat have a severed section? Do you think that's because they don't explain it?
They do.
Do they?
They
is
kind
it because
of do, yeah.
The woman then doesn't have to remember the pain of childbirth?
Yes, essentially that's it. Because I think it's revealed at the end or during the first series, where Helly R becomes her outie and becomes Helena. She goes up to a politician who's a senator, and I think he thanks her for his wife's treatment. So it's implied there that she just went, I don't want to deal with the pain of childbirth. I'll let an outie deal with it. An innie, sorry. So again, but then that again brings in this idea that hang on a minute, it's not just workers; it's that anybody at this point, for any reason, could use it. Where is this leading us? And then we get the weird goats.
Right. Stop there for a sec. I just want to backtrack a little bit because you've gone right to the last couple of episodes, but
sure.
I feel that it's because at the end of episode 6, the horny episode, as I call it, I think again allegories, trying to say something. I think there's a really interesting allegory in what's happening in that episode for any number of minorities you might want to point a finger at. The innies. Are they real people? Do they deserve to love? Do they deserve to, have a life that is, even if it is as small as it is, do they deserve to experience more than that? Are they people within themselves, And I think you could point at any number of minorities in 2026 and see it as an allegory for that. And I think it's a really interesting thing that they get into. But the end of that episode, because I've got a note here that says, shit, I'm worried Mark is going down the Petey route. He's coming unspun. He's coming unstuck in his own mind, it seems. But I feel that the episodes from this point do the same thing. The episodes start to feel more and more unhinged, more and more on the ragged edge. Particularly that final episode where there are conflicts, there's fights, the alarms going off, the marching band, the kicking out of a toilet that you're stuck in. It all is intercut between each other to give I think deliberately to make you feel like everything is unraveling on all fronts, because obviously you get I think it's the end of episode 7. I was thinking because that's the one where you get the backstory of Mark and Gemma pre-Lumen as it led up to them going into Lumen, and we are watching the different things that are happening to Gemma inside Lumen. And at one point I was like, is Miss Casey double severed? Because she doesn't seem to... She's not being Miss Casey, she's being lots of different people. But then obviously by the end of the episode you do see that no, Gemma is Gemma inside Lumen. And when she walks into all of these different new rooms that are named after random towns and cities, it seems that she is a different personality in each one of those. So that was really interesting. It annoyed the piss out of me because at the end of that episode it ends on a brilliant cliffhanger with Mark, something that happens to Mark in his reintegration, and then the next episode is entirely about Patricia Arquette's Harmony Cobell and what she's doing now and her backstory and where she came from. And again, seeing the militant religion on display there to do with the Egan family and stuff. And obviously she discovers the evidence that she's always wanted, that shows that James Egan, who is Helly's dad, who is creepy AF, and we see a few times, and not a great dad. Shocker, eh? She actually came up with all the ideas.
Severance chip was her idea.
Came up with it all and how it should work and the different rooms and this and that and how to do it. And she gets all that evidence to go back because obviously it was credited to James Egan, not to her. But yeah, then we get, like you say, let's skip back then. So yeah, the final couple of episodes, the whole bit with John Turturro and Christopher Walken in the penultimate episode of the season, where Walken admits that he was a heavy, for want of a better word.
He was higher up in Lumen.
Did anything nasty, but I think he says something like, "I used to drive people places, and I never asked what happened after that." Sort of thing.
He essentially breaks into Irving's apartment and is like, "I used to be higher in Lumen. I'm gonna drive you to the train station right now."
Yeah,
and it's that. If you're smart enough to read between the lines, it's get the fuck out of town. I clearly do have feelings for you. Get the fuck out of town. Please, God, get the fuck out of town. They're going to do something bad to you.
I've seen it before. Protective, isn't it? I'm going to send you away because that is the only way I can keep you safe. And I want to keep you safe. So again, it's a beautiful sequence between two fan-fucking-tastic actors, It's so good. My notes for episode 10, basically every other line says, "What the actual fuck?" Because
it gets a bit mad.
They do. So Mark completes the setup for it. It's all been building to this. Mark has got to complete his final thing in macro data refinement, which is the Cold Harbor file that he's working on, and he has to get the last 5% done. But we know, and he kind of is told, that when that happens, that is the end for Gemma. Gemma is no longer needed, his wife, so she will be killed at this stage the second he finishes that file. So it starts building up, but he finishes the file, and as you said earlier, the fucking sequence that they do after finishing the file is some of the most insane television I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Like, it is properly crazy. And Travis Tillman is just brilliant. Marching around with his baton and doing his dances. Fucking hell, he does some of the creepiest dances in the world at times. Oh, and actually, he got to stand up to the big dude, didn't he, after his performance review? He stands up to him in the corridor and tells him, because he's told, what is it? One of the criticisms is he uses too many long words or too many complex words.
Yeah.
And
he says, consume defecation. What? Eat shit.
Yeah. I just went, yeah. At that point, it was so good.
Yeah, no, this whole episode, like you say, is bells and whistles, batshit crazy. The fact that he knows as soon as the job that he's been working on for ages, putting these mystery numbers into mystery boxes, stealing souls or whatever the hell it is, as soon as that happens, his wife is good as dead. This is why the idiot and the outie Marks are essentially having a disagreement over how they can accomplish the goal of saving his wife and not fucking everybody else over at the same time. And their plan seems to work. You've got Milchuk coming in with this brass band in an incredible performance. And again, it just makes you just like bob your head just thinking about it. They pin and trap him into a fucking bathroom, and he's stuck there. It's hilarious just watching try to escape being locked in a fucking bathroom. I still don't agree with how he got out, but that's beside the goddamn point.
Yeah.
Then you've got them trying to rescue Gemma and watching, like, he watches her like dismantling a crib, and it's like you're watching her dismantling a crib. You had they had a miscarriage. Like, again, it goes back to Lumen. Like, I didn't notice it until I watched it the second time around recently. Was that I don't know if you picked up on this, but they have a miscarriage. They go as they're going through the relationship, and after that, they go to a Lumen maternity place or a fertility clinic, and it's Lumen. So whether that becomes the instigating reason as to why they kidnap her, who's to say?
Also, there's a bit in that episode with the backstory where she's filling out cards, or something that she's been sent through the post, and I think it's implied that they're from Lumen as well. But they don't know at that stage that that's where it's come from.
And then we get the crazy.
So yeah, back to the goat.
Getting back to the goat sacrifice. Just the way, again, it's this thing of like, we've got this what appears on the outside, very organized company. And then you go down to the lower levels, and they're using what looks like 1970s computers to steal souls. I'm just going to use that because it's funny and everybody's going to just sing with it now.
It is.
And then we go a little bit lower, and you've got the department which, Christopher Walken was working in, which was creating stuff.
Thing, wasn't it?
It was artwork. I think one of them was like, it was for an airplane, but it was like truly horrifying, scary airplane put-in cards or something, if I recall correctly. So you've got this department, and then you've got the goat sacrifices, which is where Gwendolyn Christie came in.
Yeah, and we sort of, they find the goats earlier on, don't they? They come across the goat pen, and Gwendolyn Christie being very keen on her goats, and they sort of get turfed out. And then, like you say, it comes back in this final episode. Like, the hallway fight is fucking brilliant.
Oh god!
Like, I was like, oh, this is the new hallway fight. You're doing your own version of quote unquote the hallway fight that people talk about. Pick your movie. I would argue On Back was the one that started it. But then, the Daredevil hallway fight sequence is well known from the first series particularly. They've always tried to recreate it and never quite got as good. But I did kind of go, this is your version of the hallway fight, isn't it? Where Mark is fighting Mr. Drummond, the big guy, and again, he's such a towering presence. But then you get the giant fight. And then Gwendolyn Christie and him have a fight. And that's really fucking cool as well.
But it's the humor in then. Okay, we've subdued him. Okay, I need to now switch from my innie to my outie. I'm going to hold a gun against this guy's head while I switch, and then you're just waiting for it, and bang. Oh,
when he switches,
Just so again, even within all this high tense, crazy, cerebral mystery thriller bollocks, there is still a good sense of humor, and that's what does tickle me from time to time. And then we get an ending which everybody has not stopped fucking talking about.
Yes, because I did not expect that.
No, you don't. You expect a level of...
It's almost like people trying to get a dog to come to them. That's what popped into my head. Like, come this way. Come on. A couple breaking up, and which way is the dog going to go, So you've got Mark in the middle, and he's got his wife on the outside. Now is his wife. She is Gemma, and she is telling him to come out. And then he's got Heliar, who... And because he's his innie, he loves her. That's the woman he wants to be with, not Gemma. And like you said about the sequence where he was talking to himself, which is brilliantly played, where the outie is talking to the innie, and then they go back and forth and back and forth. It becomes apparent that, the innie version of Mark will cease to exist, most likely, after that point. So he doesn't want to do it. So
self-preservation.
He's like, I did what you asked. I saved your wife. Now I'm going back to to the person I want to be with.
Yeah. And it's also self-preservation.
Yeah, absolutely.
The
Because
hell's
what they say at the end, towards the end, they're like, you gave us half a life and think we wouldn't fight for it.
Yeah.
And that line just stuck with me after that.
Yeah. Fascinating end to an absolutely fascinating show. The mechanics of what they're going to unravel from that season is, well, huge, I think.
It'd be interesting to see.
It's that thing of the mysteries and the theories are just as interesting coming out of it as the show itself, which I find fascinating. Honestly, just go and have a look at like the top 10 theories coming out of this. Some of them are just hilarious to read. I'm not going to lie. All of the various hidden clues, all of the various things. Again, it's like the picture. I think there's like a picture in the last episode that is essentially depicting Mark completing it.
Yeah, when they come
weird,
out of the lift,
what the fuck? So there are so many things to digest, even on a rewatch.
Yeah.
Having rewatched it twice at this point, you know. So I've watched it once and then I rewatched it again because it was that kind of thing of, oh, you do pick up on some things earlier that you wouldn't have before. Fascinating show. And it's one of those ones where Apple, I didn't expect this to be a successful Apple show. And when it was, I was like, oh, okay. And then the second series came out and everybody wouldn't stop raving about it. And I was one of those, and I was like, I can understand why. You guys, this is again one of the underlying things we talk about with Apple. They are giving the right money to the right people to make stuff.
Absolutely, totally agree. Might be an episode in that, you know.
Might be.
Now, interestingly, I'm wondering whether I've taken stuff away that I shouldn't have or something then. So, to me, all the rooms got explained and what MDR are actually doing got explained. As I took it, because it's when the doctors are talking to each other and Drummond's there and Egan's there, they keep putting her, like that crib dismantling. That is, to me, from what they were saying while they were watching her do it, they were saying, like, she doesn't remember. And we see in the backstory that Mark, after, as we say, many failed attempts at pregnancy, just is drunk and can't cope one day and tears the crib apart in the bedroom by hand and just breaks it and smashes it up to deal with his anger. So it seemed to me like they were putting her into that situation and seeing how good the severed tech is. Because that is a situation, because the music playing is the music that she's listening to downstairs while Mark is breaking the crib upstairs. So it seems to me like they were set up to invoke memories from her, and they were waiting to see whether it bled over, and it never did. I took that the names of the rooms are different places that Mark and Gemma visited while they were together. Like important life events, for example, in their relationship. That's how I took it, because that's why he was able to know which room to go to at the end, as he started recognizing some of the names as being relevant to him and Gemma. So that's why he knew that Cold Harbor was the room he needed to go to at that moment, because I assume Cold Harbor is the name of the place where they had that disagreement. But I might be wrong on that one. The MDR, as far as I understood it, are building the personalities that she will take on when she goes into that room. Because all of the files that they were working on and completing are the names of those rooms. And we saw them when Mark opened the Cold Harbor file for the first time. We saw someone slot Cold Harbor as a sign outside a new room that was previously unlabeled. That's as I took it, is that they are building the personality that she will have when she goes into that room. And that's why it was implied that once he finishes that file, it's done. MDR are done, or that version of MDR are done. Gemma's done. So, like, that element of the mystery for me is gone, unless I've read too much into it. I'm not sure. But there are so many other things we didn't get clarity on. You know, the whole thing in the first season about the pictures that show an MDR revolution, potentially. But there's seems to be two versions of the picture where MDR are the good guys in one and the bad guys in the antagonists in the other. And that was never quite resolved, I don't think. We never saw what actually happened back then. So whether, you know, MDR is always reset every time, I don't know. But like you say,
yeah,
there's a lot more for them to go into anyway.
Yeah, most definitely. There's so much to unpack. Again, I don't imagine that, unlike a show like Lost, where they built a load of stuff up as they kept going along, them just making shit up as they were going along, and then forgetting that they needed to actually, they actually know how this is going to end.
Exactly,
I certainly get that feeling. So I do think that certain things have deeper meanings. I don't. Again, I'm not one to overly speculate on this particular show, mainly because I think I've very much gone along for the ride. There's curiosity about elements of it. Again, the severance of, you know, that work life to personal life. Something that we all unconsciously perhaps do is that's the fascination where it begins, and then it gets into the craziness of the religious, cultish bunch of crazies that are sacrificing goats and perhaps stealing souls. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what everybody jokes about, and sometimes the joke is just as good, if not truer, than, you know, whatever. So I am 100% fascinated with the show. It's a show that is a labor of love for the people that are making it, because the structure of it, the way it is shot is so very good. Again, we got a whole episode with Miss LaBelle's character, and it felt, like you say, it was jarring because it took you out of the narrative, but it was also a good pause sometimes from you trying to wrap your head around too much all at once. Sometimes it knows when the show needs to slow its pace, and then sometimes this is the curveball. We're going to let you digest it. This is another one. It seems to have that right pacing. So it's going to be a little while, I think, before the next season comes out, maybe another year or so. But it's one where I'd rather them spend the time producing and creating this effectively than rushing it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Take your time. I agree. I think the only question I come out of with that lingers in my head even after 2 seasons is I'll go with the explanations of why severed people would want to work there. What I cannot understand is why anyone who isn't severed would ever want to work there. You know, characters like Milchek, who isn't severed. Cobell, other people in other departments that we run into. Unless you're at the top of the tree, like if you're at the top of the tree and in touch with the board, it seems like you might be okay. Lower than that, you're treated like a piece of shit. And I genuinely do not know why anyone would stay employed by that company. So it would be interesting to see reasoning behind that potentially. You know, is it that they've got shit on them? You know, it's like Gemma. Gemma is inside Lumen agreeing to go into these rooms to start with. Obviously, she becomes far less agreeable as we start to see what she's doing and time passes. But I don't understand why she ever would have agreed to go to Lumen in the first place. And they don't give us a reason by the end of the second season. As I say, you know, there will be more. Maybe they will. But that's the only things that I can't wrap my head around is why Gemma would agree to stay in there when she knows Mark's on the outside. What possible?
They lie to her.
To her.
They lie to her at one point.
Well, he tries to. He says that Mark's moved on.
Yeah, they tell her, "Oh no, he's remarried and he's had a child with somebody else," and that breaks the spirit.
Well, it doesn't. She smacks him over the head and walks out the fucking room.
But
she smacks him over the head with a chair and tries to escape. So clearly, she doesn't believe what he's saying.
No. But it's that slow degradation of that part of her is what they seem to.
I can see what you're saying. I think she's got too much fight in her by the end. I don't think she is beaten down. And I think they've told her that she's doing this for a reason, and they haven't shared that reason with us yet. You know, because she keeps asking how many more times, how many more rooms in a, you know, she wants to know when the end of this is coming. So it seems to me like she's been told there will be an end to what you're doing. So, like I say, my question is, what did you tell her in the first place that made her agree to do this shit at all? But anyway, like I say, we may get some answers as we go forward on that anyway. Well, oh Christ, we're approaching the 2-hour mark, so I won't spend too long on this one, but we should cover it as we said we would. The first season of Pluribus from Vince Gilligan, the creator of Breaking Bad. Again, high concept sci-fi. The whole thing starts when we receive a signal from space, from aliens, we assume, and people are trying to decode it. I love the way that opening bit of the first episode is shot, where like one NASA guy discovers it, and then it cuts away, and then there's 2 people, and then there's about 5 people around them, and then it cuts back, and there's a room full of 20 people all rabbiting about it because they can't figure out what the signal they're being sent is. They think it's code or language, and then they realise that it's actually a DNA string. It's a chemical thing that they can put together. And they do so, and it appears to change the way the world thinks, and that everyone is now a hive mind, all thinking the same things. They are a we, they are all the same. It doesn't matter who you're talking to, you are talking to everyone, all at once, everywhere. Yeah, not quite the right order, but... and we follow Rhea Seahorn, Carol, who is one of, 11 people, I think, in the world? Or is it 12, actually?
Something like that, yeah.
11 or 12 people in the world who have not been affected by this virus, because that you see in the early few episodes them spreading the virus worldwide. I quite enjoyed the fact that planes fly across the sky and their contrails are actually dropping the thing, because obviously I think that's a joke back towards conspiracy theorists, you know, conspiracing that, you know, they were dropping COVID from contrails, or fucking 5G's gonna do whatever. So I think that was quite a funny little knock on those people. But yeah, it's quite a small thing, really. You know, the cast, yeah, we could go through the cast, but there's only sort of 3 or 4 people you'd pick out, isn't there? Because it's about Carol and the way she deals with shit, and Zosha, and Carlos Manuel Vesca. I can't remember his character's name. Manuas, who's the Peruvian, is he, or Paraguayan? I can't remember. But
I think he's Colombian.
Colombian.
He's a Colombian living in Paraguay, because that's where he is when it starts, and he's injured and all that kind of stuff.
Correct. Yes, you are right. But yeah, anyway, great series. I've grouped it with Severance because I do feel they share some of the same DNA. As I said, they're both Apple TV productions. They're both high concept sci-fi. They are both very much show don't tell programs who do not hold your hand, and they don't rush anything. One of my favorite sequences out of the whole season is when you follow, I think it's Zosha, on her way to meet Carol somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And she's on a
meet her for the first time
down the road, and then she gets to an airbase and she walks into the back of a massive army cargo plane and flies off in it, and then lands and gets in a car. But the way the sequences are choreographed is excellent, because it really shows you this hive mind and how it would work. And you've got this character like Carol who's on the outside of this going, no, this is wrong. You're all fucking mad. I'm the one who's sane here. You're insane. And I love the way that the show, I just think it's exceptional at getting you on board with Carol's point of view, and then pulling the rug from underneath you, and sometimes literally showing you a big picture version of what's happening and going, yeah, but you end up going, shit, you are the most selfish human being alive. Why are you doing this? Yet 5 minutes before, you were absolutely going, no, Carol, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'd feel the same way. I'd want my local supermarket to be stocked with everything I want. And then they flip it and you go, oh shit. Fuck, that's really selfish, isn't it? That is really selfish. And that's one of my favourite things about the show, is how it flip-flops with that all the way through the first season. Spending 40 minutes getting you on board with her point of view to then go, but actually, guys, have you thought about this?
Yeah, it's difficult with the character at times, because, you know, I think she's come out and said, look, we're not going to just tone her down. In the second series,
character. No,
she's not an overly likable character.
I know a lot of people who've bounced off the show because they can't get on board with the character. And I can't argue with that. I'm not going to try and talk you out of it. You are right, guys. She is not a likable character. I will admit that.
The elements, again, I think we may briefly discuss this at some point off pod. One of the things that I hated personally about the characters didn't take me away from the show. It was more a criticism of this kind of, she is a author who wants to write something more special than the fantasy bullshit that she's writing. It was a bit of a cliche writer centric kind of element for it, if that makes sense. It feels like, how many times I've heard of this, I've got this great idea for this really high concept book, but all I write is romance novels. I'm like, I've heard this a little bit too much. It felt a little contrived.
There's the film American Fiction, isn't there, with Jeffrey Wright, where he's a black author who wants to write a particular type of book, and then realizes that if he wants to write the book he wants to write, he needs to write black fiction so that he can get the money to write the fiction he actually wants to write. So it's the same sort of thing there. So yeah, you're right. It is a well-worn trope at this point.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's, it's part of that character's identity, because she is struggling with the fact that she is a lesbian, but the world doesn't necessarily know that, because the characters that she writes about are heterosexual. So that obviously where Zosha comes in is because she's essentially a female version of one of the male characters she'd previously written, initially in the female perspective, but had to change it because of her publishers, etc., etc. So when you start to unpack why she doesn't enjoy her own writing, it's also because of all these little things as well. So it becomes less of a cliche for me, but still a bit of an annoying thing for me. The fact that we're portraying the whole world coming under an alien hive mind influence was absolutely funny as shit, as you say. Watching it go from one person to 2 to 3, and all they're doing is they're just scratching the inside of their cheek with a cotton swab.
Cotton swab, well done.
Swab?
It's all right, we'll be going 2 hours.
We'll be going for a little while, boys and girls. So, and then obviously just putting it in a bag for the next person, and just absolutely hilarious. Like, if humanity was to fuck itself over, there you go. In one foul swoop, alien invasion. But it's then, like you say, the elements of the story where, well, actually, because we're aliens, we're all just going to sleep in this. We don't care. We're not fussy about commercialization and economy doesn't really exist to us. Stuff's there. We don't need to eat. We're just going to drink dead bodies. Another weird concept, but still. But okay, we're freeze drying, or we're freezing all of the food, and we're putting all of the resources where it needs to be, and we're driving all of the resources out of this town because it doesn't need to be here. All that shit, and you're just like, again, you look at something like Las Vegas, would probably all they would do is just flick the switch, and Las Vegas would have all the lights turned off, for example. What a colossal drain it is on, power, resource, water, all of these kind of things, and you just think humanity can finally get its shit together, but as a hive mind, that's the funny part of it, and the different individuals who have managed to negate being converted into this hive mind again adds depth to the story, because you get these weird interactions. Again, Carol is not a likable character because she immediately dismisses anybody who doesn't speak English. Like, you're becoming an American arrogant piece of shit, and you're being depicted as such because you don't think that these people have anything worth listening to. And people even call her out on that. And I'm like, yeah, totally. You did call her out on the thing that I thought. So again, like you say, they do set her up for her own pitfalls. You can clearly see at times where she does something stupid, but a couple of episodes down the line, she's going to regret that decision. So it is growth in the character as well. She's never going to change completely, but she is growing. And the other way that I've looked at this is she is still going, because again, the whole world effectively dies. Say what you want. If you lose that sense of individuality and personality and what makes you you, it doesn't matter if that knowledge has been cloned into every single person on the planet, that's how you were. That's not how you are now. So removing that sense of individuality then becomes the interesting thing, because you then see these very small number of people. You see Carol's interactions. You see her begin to grow as a person. It's fascinating. Her relationship with Zosha and Manusas, completely flips over the course of a couple of episodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really interesting when that person has to look inward, because she hasn't for pretty much most of her life. And when she's told, like, yeah, your girlfriend didn't actually like your book, that really hits her hard. Harder than she is probably willing to accept. And therein lies the next pitfall that she has to get over. And then she suddenly wants to write the next novel from the female perspective. Therein lies some of the problem for me, though, with with this hive mind society, because there's no individuality, there's no creativity. They're strived for.
They're starved.
Starved for a new book, for something new to watch. They're never going to have it. Like, they've got the whole backlog of human history and all of the TV shows and films and music and literature, everything that comes along with it. But you're never going to have anything new.
No.
And it's really weird, because they're like, oh, they're so starved for this new book. But it's like, we still want to turn you, but you're never going to get another new book, so that's the sweet irony. They're like, no, this is it's like a drive, because they're no longer human, they're now hive mind human, and the hive mind human drive is to turn everybody else into part of the hive mind.
Yeah, I agree. It's really interesting. I think the thing that I love the most about, and again, I apply this to both shows, it's the moral questions that they make you think about. Again, if you look at Severance, is it morally right to do the severance process and create this other version of yourself that only gets to exist at work? Their day starts at 9 o'clock in the morning when you walk in, and ends at 5 o'clock at night, and then they get no downtime. They are just at work all of the time. They are not aware of anything other than work. Is it morally okay for that to happen? And with this, is it morally right for her to want everything to come back? Is it morally right for them to want her to become a part of them? Like, it asks very interesting, very big, and very deep questions. And it's why I love these two shows as much as I do, because I do not feel like most, not all, but most modern TV shows go anywhere near this sort of subject matter. And if they do, it's something in the background. There's no exploration of it, you know? There'll just be a situation set up, but they'll never actually dive into it and dig at it and see what happens. You know, silly things like Manusas, when he's that whole episode, we just spend a whole episode on his journey from Paraguay to America. And it's things like him on the way, he is learning English on the way. And it's so clever because when he, other shows just wouldn't have done that. And he'd have arrived in America and been able to talk to Carol. And they would have expected you to just go along with it. Oh no, he just knew English anyway. Whereas this decides to go, no, he's from Colombia, Paraguay. He's not going to know English necessarily. Not to speak it fluently. So why don't we show him learning English as he's going along? And then when he gets to Carol and converse with her in English, everyone understands why. It's just such a small detail that other creators just wouldn't have bothered dealing with.
No, the individual ways that these, the Manusas and Carol, particularly because they're the two protagonists that we're really following.
They're sort of cut from the same cloth, aren't they? They're both, grumpy, want of a better word.
Yeah, 100%. They're each dealing with the world in a different way. He has lost family who used to treat him like shit, and as the quote-unquote others that then try to be kind to him, he's immediately defensive because he's like, well, no, I'm not going to suddenly start believing you because you're telling me nice things. Leave me alone. Like, I don't believe you. I don't trust you. And it's a natural reaction when everybody starts behaving. Of course you are. Like, you're the only person who's acting normally and everybody else isn't. Of course you're going to be a bit defensive. Like, even all the nice things they do for him, he doesn't give a shit. He's like, you're still alien to me. You're still working against me. I'm going to go and try and find the one person who I heard and thought was actually similar to me in Carol.
Yeah.
But her journey is very different to his because she is very much more selfish. And yes, she's lost her partner and she's dealing with grief. And very much the whole series is her, to a certain degree, going through those 5 stages of grief, getting to the end and finally acceptance.
Good point.
Thank you. I do have one every once in a while.
Sorry. That sounded
no. We're a good way into this one. We're gonna we're gonna bounce a little bit more perhaps. But watching her by the episode where he is trekking through the jungles and he's almost there, he's almost to her, and he's fucking himself over. Gets really hurt in the jungle. She's just spent the better part of a month on her own or something to that effect. And she's gone stir crazy because now this is a world where everybody is gone and even Zosha's gone now. She's not around and she finally cracks. And this is where, again, before he shows up again, you begin to see that she is bending more towards the acceptance and this can be my life and my life could actually be good again.
Yeah.
And then he arrives to remind her of that individuality.
Yeah. And I think it's the bit, there's a bit where, because like you say, she sort of loses herself in this perfect relationship with Zosha, like, and starts to fall in love, basically, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there is a bit where I'm pretty sure there's a bit where Zosha says to her, or there's a situation or something is said where it becomes apparent to Carol that it doesn't matter who she is. Zosha would be acting the same regardless.
Yeah.
And it's at that point, as you say, where she goes, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm losing myself in a fantasy world that is entirely a fantasy world. And I can convince myself that this person loves me as much, in the same way that I love her. But it's not true. She could, because they're a hive mind, the physical body standing in front of me could be anyone, and they would be being the same with me. Because you see, I forget the character's name, but I know the actor is called Samba Shuti, is how I'm going with it. What's his character? Mr. Diabati. And he's the exploration of excess in that moment. So he's also not affected by it. And what's the vehicle he chooses to travel around America in? Air Force One. Because why wouldn't you? No one else is using it. I might as well use it as my own private jet. And, like you said, goes to Vegas and he's constantly surrounded by women who are presumably, meeting his every need, shall we say. And Carol is initially she finds that repugnant. But then ends up seeing what he sees in it for a bit anyway, like I say, until she then has that realization of, oh, fuck, actually, no, it doesn't matter who I am. You would be behaving the same way regardless.
It's also when they divulge to her that, remember that girl that you met before? Yeah, that was really missing her family? Yeah, and she wanted to join with her family? Yeah. Well, we've done that now, and she's part of the hive mind. And again, you as the viewer watch that process where you watch these villagers and they're all sweet to this girl, and then she becomes part of the hive mind, and then everything switches. That goat that she was loving and caring for doesn't matter anymore. What the fuck does it care? Watching that, you suddenly see the malicious intent, perhaps, of these others, and the hidden side of it. And as soon as it's revealed, no, we're working to do the same to you. Well, you can't, because I haven't given you my DNA. And then the penny drops that doesn't matter. We've already got your DNA.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm coming home. I'm going to come home with an A-bomb in a box.
Yeah, which is great. Because again, that's one of the great sequences, is that bit where they're like, where she's like, what would you give? Would you give me a hand grenade? Would you give me an atom bomb? It's really, is it a DHL worker? He's wearing yellow and red, isn't he? And so I think it's someone who was a DHL worker. But that conversation they have, where she first dives into that and realizes that, fuck, you will do anything I ask at this point. That's
they
crazy.
Can't lie. They're not necessarily forthcoming with information, but they also just can't outright lie.
Yeah.
So it's like you say, it's another very different sci-fi show. The way that it's been shot as well, clearly a certain person loves New Mexico, because guess what? If I was a betting man, I bet it was shot there. But at the same time, the scenery is very open to isolation because of its desert feel. And being high up on this, I don't know, little housing outcrop, I suppose, from the city, and then looking into the city, which
it's like
gives
a rural
that
cul-de-sac in Albuquerque, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that's probably it. And then you again for those scenes where suddenly they're like, no, there's nobody in the town that needs the power on. We're just going to turn the power on, and you watch the whole night sky light up with
stars,
darkness as stars, and you're like, what the fuck? And it's it's like the night sky when everything calmed down during the COVID era for a couple of months. Like, the stars actually shone a little brighter. Why? Because there was no fucking pollution out there to distill it anymore. So watching that, you just kind of go, yeah, that's weird and funny, and the way it was shot in different places, and like you said, that opening sequence from getting the signal to the virus spreading, that whole opening sequence is a masterpiece.
It is. I agree. Again, it is one that the pilot itself is so fucking interesting that I don't know how anyone cannot be hooked by the end of it. Like I say, the only reasons I've heard of people not continuing past the first episode is because they can't get on board with the character. Like I say, I can't argue that. But I always say to them, stick with it. She develops over the course of the season, deliberately so. So she has to start, again, it's that age-old thing, isn't it? If you want character development, then a character has to go on a journey and change from moment 1 to moment 450, they have to start in a place so they can end in a different place. So, yeah, I could start her as the grumpy, miserable cow that she is, because that's going to develop and change and show nuance as the more it goes on.
Yeah, 2 or 3 series in, perhaps, or however long they decide to do the show, she might become a likable character, because again, it's that thing of how many shows that we've seen where they start off in the first season as a complete arsehole. Or one of the characters is, at least, and by the end they've had that full circle moment. Maybe we'll get that. But another one of the production values that you look at and you go, it's going to be a minute before we get another series of this, because the writing and the directing and the producing of this is on par with Severance. And
I agree.
Again, I'm happy Apple TV is giving the right people the right money to make the right shows. It's just a shame that we're going to get a bit of distance between them. Because, Pluribus and Severance, both having had seasons last year, will probably skip this year and not be out until next.
I would have thought so, yeah.
Let's see what Apple TV might offer us in the meantime.
Yeah, exactly. Shall we call it there for this one?
I think so, yeah. Hopefully you've found the conversations around the 2 series enjoyable, engaging, as always. Throw us a like, a comment on the old socials. Let us know what you think.
Yes. I am just looking up the socials so that I can remember all of the links.
Again, it's been a long one, so I'm having to try and fill in some of your the stuff that you've forgotten at this point. Come on now.
Yeah. So yes, thank you for listening, everybody. It's been a long pod, but thank you for staying with us. We will be back next month with a movie-themed one. It might be a bit growly, but we'll see. Might be a little hint there for you. You can find us on all of the podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Amazon Music, direct on Acast itself. We have an RSS feed. All of the links and information can be found on our social media pages, which are facebook.com/the ScreenMasters, if anyone still uses that. Blue Sky, which is bit.ly/SMP Blue Sky. And Instagram, which is instagram.com/the ScreenMasters. You can still email us on old-fashioned email at thescreenmasters@gmail.com. Obviously, we are on YouTube as well, youtube.com/the ScreenMasters. Please like, subscribe, comment. Shout out to my old uni friend, Mark, who got back in touch this week because he noticed that we were doing the podcast again and listened to one of the new episodes. So lovely to hear from you, bud. I hope you liked this one, and we'll see you in the next. But yeah, any final words you would like to leave the lovely people with?
Amaze.
Good one. I like that. Well, at that point, I shall be saying that I've been Bav.
And I've been Fluff.
And this was ScreenMasters.